Hello, Culture Matters podcast. Boy, am I excited for this episode. Introduce you to our guest. Before I do that, here is a quote just for this episode. Let your desires be ruled by reason. Cicero. Our guest today is not only a reasonable man, but one of admiration. Cold showers, little sleep, warm smiles, authenticity, thoughtfulness, and candor. Good friend of the Culture Matters podcast, a staple at this point, one of the Mount Rushmores, Andrew Berman, the one and only Andrew Berman, is on today to talk about new year, new me. We're recording this, at, before the sun goes up on New Year's Eve, 2023. Recording 257 of the year. And there's few people, yeah, this is still the introduction, by the way. There's few people that I could ask to do a podcast before 6 a.m. And if I had to bet money that someone would say yes, of the people that I could ask, I'd ask Andrew first.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that intro. Now, do we still have any time left after that introduction to talk? I mean,
And we will
oh,
see you all in the next time on the Culture Matters. We should end
oh.
it there, actually. That would be very funny, like inside joke.
Short. Listen, so it would be, it would be cool to have like, one of the last podcasts of the year, shortest podcast of the year. Yeah, done.
I would have loved it. Reminds me of some of those books that they're like in I've heard, I haven't read it yet, In Search of Lost Time by Marcel Proust. There's like one of the longest sentences in history or something like that is in that book, where it's
Oh,
like
wow.
1,000 words or something. It just never ends. And I'm thinking, you just gave me an idea. I should do like a literal joke to somebody like that on the podcast where I do an introduction and it becomes a monologue and it never ends. And then 10 minutes in, I end the episode.
Oh,
There's
that's
enough
great. And
regulars on the show that I could do that. And they would, what I'm saying? Like, now I can't do it to you because you already know the inside joke. But
no,
dude,
and that, and
that's like
and you
three
got
or
you
four
and you're gonna have to
different.
do that before this episode gets released. So
Good
you
thing
know.
we have 9,000 years of, kids.
Okay, but listen, so going back, I don't remember your quote. I know you usually like me to comment on the quote because,
Yeah,
like I got lost in the introduction.
let your desires be ruled by reason. Cicero.
Let your desires be so interesting. What's your take on that? I'm trying to find my meaning in that. That your desires.
I didn't in, enjoy the idea after the fact, having enjoyed the idea of inviting you on to do this podcast at 5 a.m. on New Year's Eve. I enjoyed that idea. It was I was in a reasonable state of mind, and in the afternoon on a day, whatever day I asked. This morning, my desire was, what the hell are we doing? Like, I'd like to sleep.
It's New Year's frickin' Eve. Come on, man.
And so as opposed to the rationalization, I decided to keep my word, which to myself and to you and myself. And I think that's reasonable to keep my word because there's a relationship between my word and reason.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's one personal example I could use of just like having a fight impulse.
So, I mean, do you always keep your word to yourself?
No, if I did, I'd have a six pack.
I mean, I got a six pack. It's just a little bit of insulation over it, but
Like, there's so many ways that I fail and I'm miserable, and I could just focus on that for the rest of the episode. That'd be, I'm open to it.
so in 9 months when we go back, to listen to this episode that's recorded on January, sorry, December 31st, 2023.
At
Do you think
5:40
you'll,
in the morning.
yep, 5:40 in the morning. Do you think actually you'll be better at keeping your commitments to yourself than you are today?
I based on the last decade, I think that, well, what I've learned from studying investing is future returns are not based on past performance. So I don't know, right? But I hope I'm working towards, absolutely. Some things I'm doing for that is being committed to this show, the consistency of this show, the consistency of the process of 30 days of thought. Just doing the recording on New Year's Eve with so many great people that these episodes know to go out later, so our audience can be thinking about what they were thinking and what they were doing on New Year's Eve of 23, whatever time in 24, 25, or 26 they listen to this, because right as the show grows, people listen to older episodes. They're timeless. uh I'm This is supposed to be a foreshadow for the answer being yes, meaning that's why we're doing this today, so that the answer is yes to your question. In my mind,
Yeah.
I'm going to be better because there's other things that I can justify doing right now today, like just not working, for example, on a Sunday, on New Year's Eve. So the answer is yes, right? Because of actions like what we're doing today,
Yeah.
that that there'll be less, or there'll be new problems to face of where I'm failing, that are, even through the failing of those problems, I'm still better than the success of smaller problems. I look at it like that. Yeah, because the harder things get, the bigger, the more difficult circumstances I'm in. Even if I fail at a bigger circumstance, I'll use a practical analogy. Let's say that I'm selling widgets, and the widgets I sell is, they're each 10,000, and then eventually I start selling $1 million widgets. If I have a 20% conversion percentage on 10 widgets at 10,000, that's 20 grand. If I have a 20% conversion on 10 widgets, that's a million, that's 2 million. So I'm still failing 80% of the time. But the difference between 20 grand and 2 million is 1,980,000. It's night and day. So the answer is yes. I think that it'll be yes. I think I'll also still be failing at some level, but bigger. I'll be failing bigger. And this show, this recording, is supposed to help me be
So
better.
I mean, you make, I mean, big goals, goals I'm just like, how are you going to do that? 100 letters in 100 days. So everything's said and done. So you'll have,
I got a
what?
funny story about that, because the post office hates me. Dude, I literally held the line up for hours yesterday, because the Saturdays when I go to send the letters certified,
Yeah.
and I get there before it opens, the whole
You
thing. The
send them
lady tried to
certified.
convince me. The reason I send them certified is because it was Brian Hess helped me with this. He's like, man, people aren't getting them, right? Because there's a big percentage that they would never get them. Because
What? Wow.
you can imagine things get
I'm,
lost in the mail,
I know, but it's just like,
or
it's
they don't
just,
expect something coming, right? And then
yeah.
they
Yeah.
never find it. Da, 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 da. So, and I don't want to, like, not, I want to think something emotional like that to be a surprise.
Yep.
So I just started doing them certified.
That's
And
great.
I'm there for an hour and a half as this woman does it. I'm the first in line, and the line's out the door. There's only one person working. And I'm there, my gold watch. And I'm thinking, I got to figure out another way. 27 letters on a Saturday, like, certified. I got to figure out another way to do this. So pardon my interruption, as Churchill would say. Don't interrupt me while I'm interrupting.
So, but so you make these big goals, and so you have 250 podcasts recorded so far for this year, right?
256.
256. You got a handful today that you're going to be doing. So like what are
71.
your big goals? Because like for you to be able to keep more commitments to yourself, I'm assuming there's probably a correlation with the commitments that you make publicly, like saying I'm going to do 100 podcasts in 100 days, or 100 letters
That's
in
a
100 days.
So the 100-day challenge was 100 push-ups in 100 days, 100 podcasts in 100 days, 100 letters written to people in my life in 100 days, 100 calls to people that are not client partners in 100 days, like just talking to people, 100 introductions in 100 days. I'm missing something. The 100 push-ups. You get the point. Ended up being 97 out of 100. Oh, 100 podcasts.
Yeah.
But at the time, that was from Q3 to Q4. It was because I think Q1 starts in Q3.
Q1 starts in Q3. Okay, so you're saying like Q1 for 2024 starts in Q3 2023.
Yeah, I think that Q1, like the results of Q1, start in Q3. So in Q3, it was July. I said I'm gonna do 100 of everything, 100 podcasts, 100. That's the whole challenge. 100
Yeah.
podcasts in 100 days, 100 letters in 100. And each one of those, by the way, had someone of inspiration. Tony Capullo, Connect the Dots, 100 introductions in 100 days. He's an introduction guy. Brad Lee, 100 podcasts in 100 days. Every time I'm with him, he's doing podcasts. Like he has more podcasts. And I was like, I got to do more podcasts. Tyler Wagner, 100 days. He's made 50, 60,000 sales calls in 6, 7 years. He's unbelievable when it comes to just output. Push-ups. Mike McCann, the real estate man. It's been on the show a million times. Like he did 100. I think he did 100. Bless you. He did 100 push-ups a day. I'm glad it's on video because that'll live forever. That could be a meme. That sneeze that you just did.
I
Like
wasn't quick enough with the mute button.
no, we didn't hear it, but this will live on YouTube, so that'll be a really awesome meme someday. Like when you're famous, more famous. So Mike McCann, the real estate
Or
man,
infamous.
100 push-ups in 100 days. And so there was a dedication to each person. The letters was dedicated to my mother, Linda, who used to write me letters when I was a kid, and the payment group who writes thank you notes to all the customers, and Brian Hess, who's at the helm of that organization. So each one of those challenges within that challenge had a dedication. It
So,
started in July, Q3, it ended in Q4. This was the final tally. It was like 42 letters, so I failed. 105 podcasts, I succeeded. 97 out of 100 days push-ups. I literally did fail that. 11 introductions, fail. 22 calls, fail. What am I missing? That's everything.
oh yeah, push up just said already.
I said push-ups. I
So
said podcast. Well, here's the thing. Since then, introductions. I've never made more introductions than I've ever like. I'm making introductions all the time. I'm introducing to people to be on podcasts. I make random introductions. I'm more open than I've ever been. Like uh, some of the introductions I've made have led to amazing things, like with amazing people, and just see that it's like wow. Um, and I'm going to keep doing it. So that even though I failed
Yeah.
in 2023 in Q3 to, I'm sorry, yeah, Q3 to Q4, July to, yeah, um, that challenge, because it was a 100-day challenge. I won in a lot of ways. Um, I am talking to more people now. Again, I'm less siloed in my life, less of a hermit too. So the reason I'm going on about that, to answer your question about 2023 versus 2024, I always start with what I actually did in 2023. So to say what meaning I want to increase. So like you see what I'm saying? Like because you asked if I remember correctly what a goal I have for 2024. Was that what you asked?
Yeah, yeah. So like what are you going to do to, kind of step up your personal commitments in 2024? To kind of because obviously you've seen the fruits of your labor starting to pay off. So what do you do to step it up in 2024? Um,
So
you know,
first, I want to look at Kierkegaard said life could only be understood backwards, but
right.
must be lived forwards. So the first question I have to answer is what did it actually do? So if we look at the podcast letters and books, for example, if in 2023 recorded 268 podcasts, letters, I haven't tallied it yet. It's somewhere between 250 and 300 in 2023.
Wow.
One of the most rewarding things I've ever done for myself is tell people my life, what I think about them, good, bad, and indifferent, and build relationships through the written form. Like it's not like I sent 250 people one letter. It was like I've written to you so many times. Like write to people numerous times. I have conversations with people. People send me letters back. I have like a whole little economy of letters. So books, I haven't tallied it yet, but between listening and reading, somewhere around 350, 40 books ish, 50 started. I didn't finish all of them. I actually finished like 110, which is like very, very low for me generally, which shows where my I'm not complaining about that. It's because I'm opening up more in other ways and doing other things, like all these writing and shows and all that. We've also traveled over 140. We've over 140 days on the road, working in the trenches in different states with our client partners and other responsibilities as a consulting firm. Half the year almost we were on the road. So that's around 140. Remember, these are rough numbers because I haven't questioned because it really speaks to something that I do a lot at the end. I do often, constantly relook at where are we at, where are we at. But at the end of the year, like January 2nd, for example, I do the recap of everything I've consumed for the year because it lives in my Evernote and
Yeah.
I post it on Facebook. I've been doing that for years. And so I will exactly know to the detail, and so will everybody on Facebook, how many books I read, how many books I listened to, what television I consumed, if any, movies, documentaries, YouTube videos, podcasts. I record it all and I post it every year on Facebook and LinkedIn. And so that's
Right.
going to, you know, that you've seen that,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
I
I
started
forgot about
emailing
that
it to
era.
people.
I enjoy that.
So that's coming out and it's more detailed than ever. It gets more detailed every year. And it helps me. It helps me do it because I'm more intentional. And it helps people because well, how does it help? Or does, because now I'm just talking, does it help to see it?
Yeah, 100%. Listen, um, I can't remember what book it was, but I got a book from your list last year. Um, but yeah, like what 100%. I mean, listen, when I'm just constantly listen, if I listen to your content, I'm always actually I can't listen to a podcast or something a piece of your content without treeing or branching off into something else. Heck, this morning, I spent the listening to a couple of interviews with the CEO of what you call the Container Store.
Wow,
You know, so yeah, like I think it's definitely
that is
helpful
cool.
to share that the reading list, watching list, although I assume the watching list wasn't very extensive this year. um
There's no, because I made a commitment not to watch movies or television, but I've watched numerous documentaries. Watched one last night with Jenna about David Beckham, very inspiring. Um, Watched, and if I watch, I'm watching lectures, Yale courses, Columbia, different universities, watching YouTube videos that are educational. But that's the thing. It's not. It's just a specific commitment around no like TV series or movies. And that's been a year and a half going because it was based on a performance outcome with one of our client partners. So I don't know when I'll be watching television or movies, but yeah, it's like that. And podcasting, I've done more podcasting, listening than ever, and I actually am really into the medium, and it's helping me be a better podcaster too. So that's kind of cool. We can unpack that. But so to answer your question, I'll look at these metrics first, and I'll say, well, podcasts already I've been thinking about it, and the goal was 33 a month or 400 because we want the show to be one a day being released. So the, to get to one a day being released, I've got to develop a pattern of behavior to fulfill that content obligation and it not be a quote unquote obligation, but it's actually happening naturally. And this is how there's new people that come on the show because they're referred. There's new people that come on because I ask because I know I want them on. And then there's the regulars like yourself, and there's enough regulars with enough such a variety of people and topics that mathematically, if you have like just do, say have 20 regulars and they come on 20 times in a year, it's 400.
yeah,
So but the reason I'm trying to like it, so anyway, the answer is 400 because until I know we can publish the level of that level of energy,
yeah.
I'm not going to get it to 1,000. You know what I'm saying? Now, of course, also there's so many other things that I'm accountable to. So there's going to be a limit to how much I can do, and I'm figuring that out now. So to answer your question, if 400 are recorded in 2024, that's my answer. Letters is um is also, but I just talked about this the other day with myself. Um, oh, 360.
360 letters.
Just yeah, and I'm at that point you want to say 365, but 360.
Give
Although
yourself a break.
I want to be clear, like when it comes to the letters, I that's a prediction. That's not a goal. I want to be clear on that because the when it comes to writing a note or like if it's something coming like a letter, right, it's a very personal thing.
Mm.
And the reason I failed the challenge was because it became impersonal. It's an emotional thing, the letters. For example, I've written 40 letters in a week before. Why did I fail doing it in 100 days? Because it became impersonal.
Interesting. So you started to read the letters, and you're saying this is like generic crap that
No,
I could
no,
be
they
sending
were
to
they
anyone.
were very emotional. I just didn't do them because they were in person.
What do you mean? You had someone else write them for you?
Yeah, yeah, Chat GPT. No, I mean, okay, sorry. Let me be more. I didn't I didn't have the inspiration to write them, so I didn't write 100 or more. I wrote 42.
Interesting.
So yeah, like it became commodity. It became a thing to do. Too much. that made it less personal. So each letter was, no, it was very personal and meaningful and real, because that's the point of it. Like, hey, having a conversation with my counterpart and not stressing about my handwriting, or which I have tried to improve, by the way, and I have been told it's slightly better, but it's still shit. Um, for anyone that is worried about that, like, man, there's people that can't read them, and I'm upset about that. But I'm gonna try. I'm not gonna not do it, and I'm not gonna just either not do it or type it, or I'm gonna do the best. I'm gonna grow. I'm gonna write more slowly. So I'm saying it because I think that could help people. Because some people I think would just not do it because they'd be as insecure as I am about my handwriting.
Right here.
Okay, so what I'm trying to say is, I'll be more clear. The impersonalness was from the fact that I had, like, okay, I've got to get this done. It became anti letter
Interesting.
psychologically. Like, okay, I've got to get 10 done today. So it's like that changed subconsciously. Like, am I writing the letter because I give a shit about this person, or am I
Yeah.
writing the letter because I have to write them a letter today? It's like
You want to
having to
check
go
the
to lunch
box.
with a family member that you dislike at the time before you talk about the things that you dislike about them. That's like an over the phone conversation or a coffee. It's not a lunch. You're going to fake a lunch versus having the real conversation. That's what happened to me with the letters. So when I say 360, that's a prediction. It's not a goal. I don't have a goal with the letters.
Yeah. No, that
But there
may
are actually, I'll tell you this. The goal, because I've thought about this, to to communicate with everyone in my life. Now I have a list of everyone in my life. Like, so there's a few hundred people, there's hundreds of people that I have not communicated with in a long time, that I've neglected. And I have this goal to write them all a letter and communicate with them. So I don't, the big hairy audacious goal is to get that done, and to get that done as quickly as possible. And so that's been driving me. But I'm not gonna, because I want to communicate with them. I'm not just trying to hit some quota like I'm some fucking letter writer.
yeah. This is you're not, and because as soon as you start to do it, for the purposes of just checking a box, you lose the entire weight of
That's
what it's supposed to be,
that's where I
being
think marketing is inherently a liar's craft, and culture needs truth tellers to even things out. So marketers and culture advisors work well together. Um, and in the absence of culture is a false brand, uh, and a brand without culture is a lie. It's a cult. So there you go. So and I'm digressing, but
a brand without culture is a cult. Interesting.
uh,
So give me an example of a cult, that would be a brand that we all know that might not have culture.
tough. I'd have to get inside and shadow and see how the actual behavior, how people are relating to one another.
Is there
But
anything like
I
publicly,
can,
like we don't have to get specific to, like, finance, mortgage, or real estate, but anything, more publicly.
well, a good example would be like the USSR. If you study them in the past, they were
Interesting.
having under Stalin's regime, they were having there's a great book, Darkness at Noon, I think it's called, about the forced confessions of the prisoners. You were brought in by the secret police having done a crime that you didn't do, and before they killed you, they made you confess. So you had to lie. They forced you to lie about your deed, so that they would be justified to kill you. So the how they related to their employees was to create a condition for the employees to have to self-deceive and then to deceive the external world. They are not in America but in other parts of the world that were prescribing to their philosophies of communistic rule. They would look at the face value of their military strength and their parades and their symbolism and their orations, the brand, the perceived power, the perceived alignment of the people and the leadership as this very strong product of a way to live. As it's like one country that's small and weak, looking at the USSR, that is not privy to the interworkings of what I just described as that a relationship between an everyday citizen being arrested in the night, accused of something they didn't do, and forced to lie so that the company could get away with killing them or firing them.
Hmm.
That's a shitty culture. But the brand was strong as hell for the customer base it was attracting. And what types of customer bases are attracted to the USSR in that time? Weaker countries, startup countries that want to model strength and power.
Huh.
So that would be an example. Like,
It's great.
and so if I follow somebody on social media, a brand on social media, and I prescribe to their what they say, I don't have an experience of what they actually do with their people, and they may not. By the way, people that and that dynamic between brand and culture is ever in flux and ever in tension, ever in conflict. So it takes people like me and firms like us to help realign them because we're constantly in. Goethe said, "It's one thing. It's hard to think. It's also hard to act." I'm paraphrasing, but what's hardest is to act in accordance with one's thinking. It's hard to think.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
It's hard to act,
Of
and what's
course.
hardest is to act in accordance with one thinking. We're paradoxical creatures, so we live in contradiction. We'll say one thing and do another. We speak our idealized self. We project our idealized self into the world, and we live the reactive self below self awareness. And our spouses have to deal with us, and our kids have to deal with us. So, but our customers can idolize us. Our friends can idolize us because they don't really spend enough time with us. So, damn, this has been an interesting New Year's Eve episode. I'd
So
like the other answer is
I
books. I don't have a goal for books. What I have is a goal to read more physically before bed. So I bought this headset that I could wear where there's lights on it that won't interrupt my better half when they're sleeping. So I could read while the lights off physically because I want to read more before bed physically.
yeah, yeah.
Because reading is different than audio. They but they're different experiences. And there's books that I just want to read more. For example, I'm going to read an excerpt today for a book. There's books I want to read more. I want to read more books and become a better reader,
Interesting.
not just audio. I both have value, and that's where I'm growing in my education and my evolution. I need to become a better reader so I can read more annual reports and just financial thing. Like I must condition myself to read more.
Yeah.
If somebody wants to read faster, they got to read more. Say read faster without like bullshit reading, right? But yeah, I want to physically read more. I don't have a goal yet of like how many books per se. I'm looking more as time. Like I'm going to slowly increase my physical reading time per day,
Yeah.
20 minutes to 2.5 hours. Like I've got to get that up because that's got to be a part. And so the question, the more the over the next 10 years, as I get that to the hours up, the page per minute will go down.
So Jay,
So
can I? Uh, I'm
Yeah.
sorry to interrupt, but this is bothering me. I gotta ask you. So you mentioned USSR as the the best case of that we know of where a public massively strong brand but was operating as a cult where they basically used fear tactics to kind of control the people, not actual get motivating people. But on the flip side, what is the what's the best example? Like is
And
that the Container Store? I mean, obviously that was a book
um,
that inspired you,
yeah.
but like what would you say is the best?
And I wouldn't even want to just blanket and say they're a cult. That's cult like dynamics.
Yeah, yeah.
They argued that that was their culture at the time. That was
Eh.
how that society performed its value system. It was a component of that society. That's a deeper dive we can do in the future. Um, I don't think there's a perfect system. I think there are elements, there are variables that can decrease the there are elements, and I've been working for years on a methodology to lower con to diminish contradiction that builds up in institutions, businesses, to diminish contradiction, paradox, um, open what has been closed or what's closing, open it, diminish, to lower deconstructive conflict and increased constructive conflict. Deconstructive conflict as it relates to people and problems, right? The people and how they relate to each other and the
Mhm.
problems that they face and how they solve them. Constructive conflict, how we interface with one another, solve problems together. Because business is about solving problems for through ourselves for our customers, for the overall business. There are variables to lower the likelihood that someone rises up in the organization and is bought into the organization.
Mhm.
And there's variables to increase the likelihood of someone moving up in the organization, becoming more valuable to the organization, for themselves, through the organization. And that plays a part of distributing products and services to customers, growing the company's profit potential, growing the company's brand, growing the company's market share. It's all connected because a business is a living, breathing organism. It's
Mhm.
not fixed. It's unfixed. It's ever changing and evolving. And people like myself and firms and third parties that service and work with these organisms, these businesses, uh, part of the purpose we serve is to help them not succumb to their own success or be diminished by their current failures. So to answer the question, the perfect culture is like it's like life after death. um, that pipe dream is part of what drives me to continue to learn and pursue and to right and every year I get a little bit more clear on what not to do.
Did I hear you say organism?
Absolutely.
Or interesting. So,
Yeah, a company is an organism, is how I look
yeah.
at it.
Well, I mean, maybe actually it's the more alive that an organization is an organism, um, you know, could potentially mean like more culturally alignment. Because I mean, if listen, a company could be considered, I wouldn't say dead, but close to dead if it's basically just following the one leader
That
and
depends. That depends on how much that leader sacrificed.
really.
The, if the leader, it depends on. It depends on a person that is willing to sacrifice all of their life, and they're super talented and smart and deceiving. Like they can one can be a dictator. Like this is part of the dictatorial leadership works. There's a methodology behind it.
Hmm.
I don't teach it. I actually try to help people unlearn it. It's a naturally manifesting tendency
Yeah.
of the human condition, and it works. Few people have the talent, the giftedness, or the toxic traits to actually be a dictatorial leader. Meaning they're just not going to work as hard enough, and they're not going to be as talented enough to to do that. They're not going to choose business over their personal life, over their family, over any other thing. They're not going to do it. They're just not going to have that level of work ethic and talent and giftedness and competency and focus and all the variables that one would need to be a dictatorial leader that actually has clacks, people that clap and follow them and pursue them. Like now, right? That's everybody would be entrepreneurs, successful entrepreneurs. There comes a point where, and I talk with this from founder to CEO, when the founder, which starts off like the latter, but I just kind of articulated, and has to evolve into from Christ to Socrates. I am the truth. I am the word. I am, where they think for everybody.
Hmm.
To the more that Socrates, the more I know is the more I know I don't know, and they have to turn into the guide. They have to help other people think. The larger the organization, the more talent you want to actually come into it and become their own person through it and grow it.
Yeah.
it Becoming like Socrates and not just like a demagogue is going to help in that. If we're going to have more and more and more leaders that have the capacity to listen, if we want a meaningful organization, we want a family, an integrated organization uh, where loyalty is a byproduct and not a necessity, a law. Is a very different build out than the dictatorial organization. But one can be anyone listening to this. The dictatorial organization is extremely successful, and that you could just look at the world and how the world operates. There's plenty of dictatorial successful cultures.
Yeah. However, like, I, would you say actually that a more democratic, employee focused, um like where it is not a dictatorship, and is operating more as an organism, a
I would
living,
actually
breathing
say the
organism?
overwhelming neurosis, the overwhelming focus on employees is generally a symptom of the company losing its identity of why it exists to the customer, and losing its vision and strategy and work ethic from the top.
Oh, really? A
And
focus on employees?
the focus on employees
Interesting.
is a symptom of an unclarity and lack of integration of the actual activities necessary by leadership. So, example, people reach they go beyond what they thought they could in their life.
Hmm.
They become very wealthy. They become very successful for their business, and they literally stop working. They stop selling. They stop envisioning. They don't even know how to work without pressure, without owing somebody money. They don't fucking know how to live without living in fear. So these people build these empires, and then once they get it all, they become depressed and neurotic and fucked up. And what they do is they spend all this money on trying to control everybody around them in their life to get them to be like better and more productive, when what all they need to do is just be a better person themselves. And part of that is learning more. It's thinking bigger. It's saying we have a $50 million organization. It could be 1 billion. and I could be the parent, the great husband, the great this, and also work. I don't need to buy into the lie of passivity. I don't need to buy into the lie that I need a third and fourth wife. I don't need to buy into the lie that I've got to do this, this, and this, or be here, there, there. I don't need to buy into the lie that I've got to work on my business. I can actually work and show the values. So, and by the way, I think this is tied generally to the overwhelm, our culture in general, losing sight, or just kind of not losing sight, just the overall change that's occurring. Where Drucker said, years ago, the business is the number one. Oh, sorry, is the number one business to have a yeah. The purpose of a business is to have a customer.
Hmm.
Okay.
Hmm.
Today,
Yeah.
a purpose of a business is to have an employee. It's almost mirroring the socialistic tendency that we're moving into.
Yeah.
So I just want to be clear. I'm not making an argument that employee doesn't matter. I'm actually making the exact opposite argument. The employees are extremely important to get the value from
Yeah.
them and to give them value.
Yeah.
We actually have to focus on customers. And to do that, we actually have to work if we're in the leadership position, meaning we actually have to think bigger. We actually have to be able to strategize. We actually have to be able to lead people in the 21st century, which means we have to be more self aware, more educated about the world, less divisive, less ignorant, less resentful, less entitled, less stupid, frankly, less foolish, less arrogant. And we're going through a fucking business existential crisis, just like we are in this world right now. And no, the overwhelming obsession with getting employees to buy in is absolutely ironic because it's really about the employers to buy in. And part of that is because that's what excites people. It's about the customers, and through our labor. I'll give you an example. If I serve my customers, I really do. My employees watching me and they're learning how I act.
Yeah.
And if they're not learning in how I act, it's my job to ask them to leave. But if I can't ask them to leave because I'm not able to, what would correlate with that? Because I'm not doing my job. Now, what would correlate to that? Well, I don't know what to do, or I don't have to do it because I'm in charge. And so
Yeah.
there's constantly that's always an issue if I'm the owner of a company because I'm in the dumbest position, meaning I have all the power and no, but I'm in the dumbest position because I'm always in the dark because if the company's at this size, it could only grow or go down, right? So I'm constantly knowing it all and knowing nothing. Like I'm in the dumbest position. So I think it's hilarious that we ended up on that on the New Year's Eve episode. But in 2024, I hope that this conversation is more of a theme on the show, and I'm being more useful to the culture, to the business culture, in sharing these views that I have that'll help people wake up get to work, add value to their people in a way that actually adds value to the people that doesn't just waste time and resources and distract everyone and add to entitlement and add to resentment in business. And I hope to do that through, hundreds more podcasts, more intentionality with the people in my life, more shows with the people in my life like yourself, Andrew, more travel. Why? So that our family can grow and have better success and better and more meaning and fun and all these things. And that's what that's why I personally decided to follow reason and not desire, according to Cicero this morning. And I've got to now do a I have a meeting, not a podcast, at 6:30 a.m. today on New Year's Eve. Final thoughts?
I think listen, this is a great time. I don't like actually the putting much emphasis on end of year, like a goal setting, just being focused on end of year because I feel like it's a plastic thing that a lot of people do. And not actually, I mean, it's obviously, people make these New Year's resolutions that just never go anywhere. It's why the gym's going to be packed and we're going to have to suffer for the month of January while everyone finds their new me, new self. But when you have specific actions and specific goals like 400 podcasts, and intentionality to have an impact on your life and to know actually that in 9 months you could look back onto those commitments and say actually that hey, I've done those things. Those are significant, whether you do it on January 1st or you do it on July 1st doesn't make a difference. But taking your commitments, writing them down, committing to them, whether it's 400 podcasts, um, 400 push-ups a day, whatever that is, sticking to your commitments, committing to yourself more, being in a position to win when you commit to yourself more. And I think these are great recipes for an amazing 2024.